Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So as you could tell by the title, today we will be continuing to talk about this very large system. Well, actually two pretty large systems, but one that especially is taking kind of the news headlines right now, and that is across the western United States. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. The storm obviously across the central United States, the one across the west, and a lot of folks may be wondering, or some folks have been asking, where's the storm? You know, come on, you've been talking about it for so many days, and where's this thing? Well, I do believe that being prepared and being kind of aware of what's to come is good. That's why I've been talking about it so many days in advance, but it's finally here, and many across the west coast, well, you're probably aware of that. Look at much of northern California, we're just under a absolute a river of moisture, if you will. I mean, that's pretty much as close to a river as you can get in terms of precipitation across the central United States. Illinois, Chicago, Wisconsin, Iowa right now getting a very, very heavy rainfall. There is some severe weather threat that is kind of going on right now across the Missouri, Illinois area, and this will eventually move into the northeast, and this one will become a very large one on its own, and then of course the impacts from this one will stretch towards the west. So there is just a lot to cover. I will try going over as much detail as I can in a reasonable amount of time. And before we do that, I do want to ask you guys that if you do enjoy this video, and obviously if you're new, check out the channel first, watch the video first, see if you're enjoying it. I'm just here to remind you that if you do, you can subscribe. It really helps out a lot. Liking the video also helps out a lot. And if you have any comments, concerns, questions, please leave them down below. I will do my best to answer them. I probably won't be able to cover every single location, as there's so many, activities and so many places that are getting impacted by this. So if you have any questions about your area, leave it down below and I'll make sure to get to you. Okay, first off, I want to look at the radar, right? I mean, it's impressive. We've been looking at the models the past several videos, and why not look at the radar if this storm is pretty much underway? And we could just see that obviously a lot of precipitation is across the northwest, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. A lot of mountains are seeing snow. The Bitterroots, the Sierra Nevadas are under winter storm warnings. The Tetons are just under winter weather advisories, and portions of the Cascades as well. But notice that as we push this forward and we get this radar to load, it's a bit buggy there, but there's batches of pretty good precip to the north of kind of California. But again, really, this takes the cake right here, and you can see that has just been drenching much of California for hours at this point. I'll show you some of the rainfall amounts in just a second. They are rather profound. And notice that it is still raining right now across the mountains of the Sierra Nevada, and that is because this will be transitioning over to snow later on during the night. It is still raining for a majority of these areas if the radar is correct here, and I'm assuming that it is to at least a majority extent, if you will. And notice that further to the north we do have that rain coming on. I want to share with you a very interesting fact. This storm, I've heard, I don't know if this is 100% true, but I'm pretty sure it is. In terms of millibars, it is the strongest storm that has ever occurred across this part of the world in history. Obviously, there probably were stronger ones, but not where humans have recorded it or where meteorologists were able to, right? So, yes, it's an impressive system. The aggressive titles aren't really there just for no reason. It was a big beast already a week ago, or it appeared to be one, and it stayed that way. Regarding this one, you can see it's really an impressive one. I wouldn't say anything historic like the one across the west, but it is definitely dropping a lot of rain for areas. Flooding is a concern, and what it will do is develop into a really large system, pretty much a nor'easter, kind of like almost as strong as some of the storms that again are more kind of remembered in history. The perfect storm is kind of being compared to this one, as it could potentially ride up the northeast. I don't think it will be as bad, as there's some pretty negative connotations with that. I don't want to be an alarmist of any kind, but there could be many inches of rain for the northeast, pretty much like a tropical storm strength, as some models show. So yeah, it's definitely something to be taken serious, nothing to be taken lightly. Rainfall amounts, I want to show you these. Okay, so we've been looking at the rainfall estimates for the past few days across really the past week, and now we're finally seeing them come to fruition. You can see northern Nevada is picking up decent rains. This is past 72 hours. We have an inch and a half. But obviously the area that takes the cake, if you will, kind of sees a lot more than anyone else so far is Northern California, and that was expected. You can see some of these amounts are already approaching potentially double digits in some areas. 7 inches right there just west of Chico and into the Sierra Nevadas, also very high amounts. Redding, Northern California, you could see 4 or 5 inches. Eureka right there, perhaps probably 1.5, 2. And then San Francisco's getting in at 2 to 3. So these are decent amounts, and these will probably multiply by a factor of 1.5 to even 2 for some of these locations by the time the storm is done. You could see across Washington, 4, 3 inches, right? Seattle, definitely a decent event of up to an inch. Boise, Idaho, got around 2 inches, inch and a half. And across the Midwest, of course, with those thunderstorms, heavy rain amounts have fallen. And again, these will continue to be kind of compiled right there across the Chicago area. An inch, or half an inch, I should say, or potentially across Des Moines, Des Moines, 3 inches just southwest of Des Moines, 2.5. So yeah, a lot, and this will again kind of continue traversing towards the east, and I want to show you that. So again, there's the radar. You could see all of that good stuff, if you will. How good that is, it's up for interpretation. That you know, this rain is needed. Just it's a bit too much, especially across the burn scars. This stuff will start flowing, especially with no vegetation holding onto the soil. Landslides, mudslides are pretty much inevitable. Hopefully, they're not just too significant. So these are the big models I used to show you, and let me just quickly show you the GFS. So those are our two systems. There's our timeline right here in the corner. 1 a.m. October 25th, which is tonight in a few hours. And notice that this one across the Midwest continues weakening, and what it does do, however, it kind of takes energy from the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and then that allows it to re-intensify, and it does so very, very significantly. Notice that by Tuesday morning, it's already a big storm off the coast, and look, 977 millibars. Those winds are howling off the north, and east. So it's in every shape and form. It's a nor'easter. Very strong winds. Coastal flooding will be a major issue. Heavy rain. Again, probably you could call this pretty much a weak tropical storm in terms of strength. Very, very strong, and you can see that does wind away, but not before that big one that's across the west. Currently moves into the Midwest, and it does its own share of rain and performance across the south, the north. You could see the extent of this thing. It's massive. Even once it moves into the Midwest, it is large, it is giant, and it brings more rain to the Northeast and Midwest and South. Now let's track that system, but while it's still across the West, so this is 7 a.m. tomorrow. You could still see it's raining across much of the locations. It's already raining and has been raining. It is slowly starting to slide to the south, this kind of this river of moisture, but notice, look at that storm right there. That is 972. It was stronger once it's kind of further away from land. It was even stronger. So again, I think that statement that it was the strongest storm in that part of the country or that part of the world ever recorded is probably accurate. And I heard someone say that it's an equivalent to a Category 3 in terms of its winds, because I think the lowest pressure was 950 something. So yes, a absolute monster moving in onto the West Coast, and I'm sure you've seen it on the news. If you haven't, then I don't know what you've been watching. Notice that across California, Southern California, Nevada, Utah, we see that rain move through. Again, these amounts right here won't be as legendary, if you will, as they will be across California, but they will be present nonetheless, and definitely making some sort of an impact for folks there into Monday and Monday overnight. By Tuesday, we have that nor'easter raging, but we also have this system moving out to the plains. We have a chance of severe weather, more rain still kind of moving in down to the northwest. And look, again, as I already showed you, this system brings rain all the way from the south to the north. This line is massive. That precip stretches from southern really Canada all the way into the the Gulf Coast, right? So that's pretty much if you were to put it into comparison, I kind of measured it out earlier. That's from like southern Italy all the way into the kind of the central half of Finland and Sweden. I mean, it's a massive line of precipitation, and this thing kind of intensifies. You can see brings more rain, wraps itself around, and yeah, a lot of rain. Let's take a look at the total accumulated precipitation according to the GFS. I did not want to click on that. I wanted to click on this. Let's see. So again, a lot more rain still expected for the West. I would say that some of these may be a bit again a bit too high, especially where it has already rained. But yeah, an additional, I would say, 3 to 4 inches across this area is possible, which is a lot. And going back to that, we see that the Midwest could pick up more, not only from the system right now, but from that second one, and of course the Northeast. You can see the GFS shows quite a lot for those areas, with New York, Long Island, kind of Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, really being targeted by this rain. Widespread amounts of 2 to 6, even higher inches of rain. And this is honestly, the GFS shows the lightest out of all the models, lightest amounts of rain for these areas. So yes, rather eventful few days we have ahead of each other, or ahead of our I should say. Let me show you another high-res model, the Canadian. I won't show you the storm performance because they're really the same. I just want to show you the difference in rainfall amounts. Look at this one. That's what I mean. It shows a lot more. It shows widespread amounts for New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and much of Massachusetts into southeastern New Hampshire. We see amounts of 6, 7, 8, maybe even double-digit amounts. And again, it does show quite a bit more across the California West as well. So again, the models are in agreement. The European model, this is again a very good model. I love looking at it, and people do as well because it's accurate. Let's see what they show. So this is what that first system may drop across the Northeast. Look, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. That kind of the bomb cyclone, if you will. And then you can see that the Midwest also picks up a lot of rain from that. It's the one that is going on right now. And obviously the West does as well. But if we take this fully throughout the next really 240 hours, we see that that second system, which is the one across the West currently, once it reaches the Northeast, it compiles even more rain on top of that first storm. And that leaves with much of the Northeast seeing amounts over, what is that? Over 4 inches, which is in that yellow. Some amounts are probably going to be over 6, 7, and the localized amounts under thunderstorms and whatnot, banding, could definitely be in the double digits. As I've been saying for the past few days, it seems more and more likely. But yes, it's a large area of rain that's going to be falling. In terms of total snowfall, the mountains are going to be mainly kind of partaking in that snowfall, and you can see that is quite a bit across the Sierra Nevadas, the Bitterroots, and this snow right here is from a system that could come along once a pattern change occurs, which the models, by the way, are indicating that there could be a very cold blast of air into early November. I just haven't talked about it because I've been just really busy with these two systems on this channel, and they are again quite a mouthful to talk about, if you will. So that's the global models, right? Let's take a look at some of the high-res models. So these are models that are more precise, more accurate. At least that's what the intentions of them are, right? And let's see what they show. So let me click on the model run that goes out to 48 hours, so not much. But let's time this out, the system. So choose your spot. This is an hour by hour. You can see this data is a bit old. It's from 2 o'clock, and right now when I'm recording it, it is 7 o'clock Central. And so this is what the model thinks it will look like at 7 p.m., and this is what it actually looks like. Here you can see that there are a few, sorry about that, few differences, but generally speaking, it is a pretty accurate scenario of what's going on. So moving forward, we see that into the overnight hours by 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that system across the Midwest does develop a pretty strong cold front against severe weather across Missouri, into Illinois, into Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas. And that rain band, you could see, continues across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, northern Ohio. And that does spill into portions of, again, Ohio tomorrow, into Illinois, still kind of drenching that rainfall. Continuing at the Northeast, seeing on and off rain for much of the early morning hours, but then once the afternoon comes, it clears out for a bit, but not for long. You can see this massive plume that this weather model does a great job of illustrating. And those two systems, if you will, collide. And yes, this model goes berserk with it. You could see that by really, I would say, late Monday tomorrow, we start seeing rain filling back in across New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, much of Pennsylvania, Virginia, Delaware, the Washington, D.C. area. And you can see the rain just goes and goes and goes. And look how strong this model takes this low pressure. And 9, 7, 8 millibars, very strong winds, especially around the center of that. Almost, again, like a hurricane, comparable to, not a hurricane, a weak tropical storm, a subtropical like system. It has those characteristics, those bands and whatnot. And just through these 48 hours, let me show you how much precipitation this system drops across the Northeast, which again, it's not done with this fully at this time frame, but let's see what it shows. Again, you can see it already shows amounts of up to 2, 3, 4 inches, maybe some even higher amounts. Now across the West, you can see the rainfall amounts are very significant as it moves down kind of along this the southern flank of the Sierra Nevada and along the coast and into portions of Idaho, Nevada, and Utah. Rainfall amounts are also rather decent, though again not as impressive as across California. Let me take a look at that. The western storm, because I timed out the eastern storm for you, and I guess I did the western one, but I didn't really talk about it as I focused on one, as I couldn't really focus on two as occurring at the same time. But notice, as I mentioned, that rain across the California area, the higher elevation, starts off as rain, but look, over the nighttime today, it just explodes to blue colors. And yes, that will transition to a lot of snow into northern Nevada, California, and that does weaken. You can see that river, if you will, and it kind of does get swept away from the main system. But look at the Northwest, just continuing to see an onslaught of thunder showers, thunderstorms, while this main band continues to shift towards really the west, or sorry, the east, and it does bring some rain into Wyoming, into Utah, and southern Montana. And again, we have that nor'easter occurring at that same time frame. And we already saw those rainfall amounts. Pretty impressive. But I want to show you those snowfall amounts. And you can see that they are rather significant. Let's zoom in on them because they are a bit far away. And yeah, you can see right there various amounts, probably a few at least, recording up to 48, if not more, inches of snow. So yeah, definitely a good start of the year for kind of a ski resorts or the mountains. I know that some of them were opening ahead of schedule out of this because of this system, so I guess there's a silver lining to that. And I want to show you some other high-res models, but just take a look at their snowfall amounts, which here's the NAM 12KM, which shows us that these are the rainfall amounts. This goes out a bit further, so it's 84 hours out. So let's take a look at the rainfall. You can see pretty significant. It doesn't get as excited, this model, across the rainfall for the Northeast, but it still shows amounts of up to 1 to 3, which is significant, just not as much. And again, I would say that this is probably an outlier, the NAM 12K. And we can see this model definitely shows those very high amounts, shows even some yellows right there. So that would be a scary amount of rain, which unfortunately is, sorry about that, is definitely a possibility with such a beast intensifying so quickly. 48 hours out, so it's not too far out. You could see already showing several inches, definitely in an aggressive scenario. This is a high-res Canadian model, shows a lot across the west, a lot across the Midwest, and a lot across the Northeast as well. And HRDPS, it only kind of forecasts for the northern half of the country, and again, it only takes us through really Tuesday afternoon, and already a lot of rain across the Northeast, and more would be to come. If you were to take a look at the rain/frozen, yeah, you can see it's just really starting to kind of intensify and show its vigor across the Northeast. So definitely an interesting scenario we'll have to watch for. Still a lot of disagreement against the models, but it's becoming more and more likely for a very heavy rainfall event. I want to show you the National Weather Service map, Weather Ready Nation map, with all the alerts and advisories. And yes, you can see there's a lot of colorings. We have a lot of these brown, kind of nasty little gray colors, not gray, brown, or a little bit darker brown, a little bit more dull brown. Those are wind advisories, and that is well warranted with such a big cyclone moving in that, again, is comparable to, I think, in energy and in strength to a Category 3 hurricane, which it won't be because there's differences between a cyclone in the fall and a hurricane. But yeah, you can see winds are obviously a concern, and you can see Nevada right there is going to be dealing with some very strong winds. This is just a wind advisory, not even a warning, but 20 to 30 with gusts up to 50. Let's see, Eli, or yeah, right there, which is under windstorm or high wind warnings, not an advisory, and you can see up to 60. So that's quite a bit more stronger, those winds. And you can see a lot of these areas are under various flood advisories, flood warnings, flash flood watches. I mean, just a ton of kind of different advisories. In Grass Valley, these areas have already seen up to 6-7 inches, and let's see how much more they're forecast for, say, this afternoon. So, you know, again, it's coming to the end afternoon for many, so just a bit more, but during the night, 3 to 4 inches of rain. That's not snow, that's rain. That is a lot. And then, of course, we do have a tornado watch that is rather extensive, guys, so this is definitely something we'll have to watch for, and hopefully that this doesn't result in anything too significant, but we do have tornadoes occurring already. Hopefully they don't turn out to be too significant and too impactful, but, you know, I mean, tornadoes are tornadoes, so that's kind of pretty hopeful thinking, or hopeless thinking. Northern Chicago area, a lot of advisories, a lot of flood warnings, lakeshore advisories off that wind that it's going to be absolutely blowing off the lakes. And of course, look at this, the Northeast is already starting to get those flash flood watches put up. New York, you know, large metropolitan areas of various cities getting that rainfall. Right there into Michigan, we do have flash flood advisories, hydraulic outlooks, and whatnot. And again, with the rainfall amounts especially being significant towards the southern portion of the state, so definitely a significant storm. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. Let's see what they have here. Yeah, high wind watch for much of Boston. Yeah, already, look at those winds. 55 possible, even stronger. This is definitely something that's significant. Them issuing a high wind watch, that doesn't happen too often, especially being still relatively far out. All right, guys, thank you for watching. See ya.